Hello everyone, this is Jan Chromi and together we will continue the course Interdisciplinary Approaches to Language and its Use. In the last presentation we focused on the spoken word recognition, and now we will turn our attention to the visual word recognition, and we will discuss it in the relation with a widely used method called lexical decision task. We already mentioned lexical decision task when we talked about the adult vocabulary size. The method is quite simple. Participants are shown strings of letters, which either are an existing word in the given language or not. Their task is to decide whether the string of letters is an existing word by pushing a button. They should do this as fast as they can. Researchers measure reaction time and also response correctness. Reaction times are supposed to reflect the ease with which words are accessed and retrieved from semantic memory. The harder it is to retrieve the word, the higher are the reaction times. Because of its easy implementation, lexical decision task has been used in thousands of studies addressing various issues. It is probably one of the most widely used experimental methods in psycholinguistics. Here we can see the string of letters immaculate, which is an existing word in English, meaning perfectly clean or without any error. It is not that frequent, and probably even some native speakers of English would make errors and state that this is not an existing word in English. We might predict that the reaction times for this word would be rather high, at least in comparison with frequent common nouns such as table, computer, or grass. As we said, there are plenty of studies using lexical decision task. Therefore, we know quite a lot about the factors which influence word recognition. Multiple studies found a frequency effect. The more frequent the word is, the lower are the reaction times. Another factor is word length. The longer the word is, the higher tend to be the reaction times. A theoretically interesting factor is the age of acquisition. Various studies using the lexical decision task suggest that words which are acquired sooner in life tend to be retrieved faster from semantic memory than words which are acquired later in life. Also, it seems that semantic characteristics of the word influence the reaction times. More imaginable and more concrete words tend to be recognized faster and than less imaginable and less concrete words. And the last factor we mention here is the orthographical or phonological neighborhood density, which is calculated as a number of words which differ in exactly one grapheme or phoneme from the target word. The phonological neighborhood of the word table thus contains words like cable, able, Mabel, or Tibble. Various studies found that the higher is the neighborhood density of a word, the faster it is recognized. One of the possible problems with these factors is that they are somehow related to each other. For example, shorter words tend to be also more frequent. Highly imaginable words are typically also quite concrete. Words which are acquired earlier are typically frequent and tend to be rather concrete, and so on. Therefore, it is quite hard to disentangle the influence of each of the factors on lexical retrieval. One of the possible uses of the lexical decision task is the semantic priming research. In this paradigm, participants are presented with a prime word for a very short time, ranging from tens of milliseconds to hundreds of milliseconds, and then with a target word. Two main tasks are employed. Participants' task is either to pronounce the target word or to perform the lexical decision on the target word. The key finding is that people respond faster to the target word if prime and target are related than if they are unrelated. This is called semantic priming effect. Now let's have a look at an example. At first, you will see a prime in lowercase letters and then a target in capital letters. In a semantic priming experiment, you would now have to decide whether it is a word or not. Because the prime chair is related to the target table, your reaction times should be shorter than in the case that the prime word would be unrelated, for example, river. Priming experiments differ in various aspects. One thing is the prime presentation duration. This is very important. Experiments using very short presentation duration, such as 100 milliseconds or even less, aim to study early unconscious phases of word recognition. In this short amount of time, we are not able to detect the prime word consciously, but priming effects still may occur. Typically, masked priming method is used. This means that the pattern mask is presented at first for about 500 milliseconds. This may be an array of hashtags, and its function is to attract participants' attention. Then, the prime appears in a lowercase font for a very brief amount of time, such as tens of milliseconds. After that, a target is presented. On the other hand, prime presentations longer than about 200 or 230 milliseconds are already consciously detectable, and therefore the process is called overt priming. It is used to examine not only lexical processing, but also deeper integrative processes across words. Priming experiments may also vary in the studied modality. Primes and targets may be presented visually, auditorily, or cross-modally, which is the case when the prime is presented in a different modality than the target. Also, semantic priming may be studied in the context of one language, but it also may be studied cross-linguistically, and it may thus offer an important evidence in the research of bilingualism. Priming has been used in study of various aspects of word recognition. We may focus on phonological, morphological, or semantic aspects of words. Also, late research on semantic priming has shown interesting patterns of individual differences. For example, it seems that our reading skill and vocabulary knowledge affects the presence and size of the priming effect. Before we will conclude this presentation, I have two reading tips for you. The study by Keith Hutchinson and his colleagues presents the Semantic Priming Project, which is a mega-study containing priming data for 1,661 target words collected from 768 participants. The data are freely available, so if you like data analysis, you might spend several evenings playing with them. The other study I would like to recommend to you is a nice review article on visual word recognition by Melvin Yap and David Bellotta. If you enjoyed the presentations, we would be glad if you would like them on YouTube. That is all from me now. See you next time.